Hello, welcome back to my channel. Leah Parsons on this chilly, snowy day here in Nova Scotia. And I want to tell you a little story today. So if you're new to following me, please hit the subscribe button. If this speaks to you, you can share it out into your own community or just have a listen and see if any of this, what I have to say. I come in probably weekly to share little insights and tips and things to help you in your healing trauma, healing grief. These are the things that are near and dear to my heart because I've been able to find my way through. I share these things in hopes that you too will be able to find your way through in whatever you may be struggling with. So I do feel like if we have found a way to move in our life that benefits ourselves, it's important that we share that out with other people. So today I wanted to share a little story about being afraid and in fear. And when I was, I'm the youngest of 7 children, so when I was a little girl, I was an aunt at a very early age. And I loved taking care of my nieces and nephews. It was so much fun when they came over and I got to pretend I was their mommy. And I knew that one day I couldn't wait to be a mom. But unfortunately, through my teen years, some horrific trauma happened to me. Lots of betrayal. I was sexually assaulted. I don't even like to use that term. I was raped. Basically, that's what happened. Sexually assaulted kind of to dim down what the actual act of what happened to people. So I don't really like to use that, and kind of, it just takes away from the violence of it all. Even though all sexual assault is violence, there are, of course, a spectrum. And so when I was a little girl and I was excited about being a mom, I even played around with my nieces' names to know that one day I was going to name my baby. I was hoping it would be a girl. That I was going to name it Ritea, and I took my niece's name and I spelled it backwards. So I was probably like 14 years old. I have the diary entry somewhere. And I turned it around and I said, oh my gosh, if I ever have a little girl, I'm going to name her Ritea. She'll be my ray of light. I'll call her Ray for short. So I kind of planted that seed early on. And when we plant seeds, this is part of this video, when we plant seeds, they do grow. And so many, many years later, I went through probably most of my 20s, early 20s, mid 20s anyway, not wanting children, definitely not wanting to bring a child into this world. I felt like I couldn't figure out my own life, so I definitely wasn't going to be able to nurture and be responsible for another being. I did well with my dog, and that was enough for me. But that changed in my late 20s, and at 29, I gave birth to my very first child. She changed my world, and I named her Ritea. So that seed that was planted many years before that came into being. And when she was little, I was excited and I was fearful that first year, afraid something was going to happen to her, making sure I was going to be the best mom I could, which meant taking radical responsibility and having to go back to school because I was a high school dropout, having to go back to school and study and not knowing if I was going to be smart enough to go to university. But I knew that I needed to do whatever I could to provide for her and give her a future that she deserved. So I did. I went and got an undergrad degree, and then I went and got a master's degree in counseling. I spent almost 8 years in university when she was just a little girl. And I brought her with me for my undergrad degree before she started school. And it was the best time of my life, really, because I was proving my own limited beliefs, my own thoughts about myself. I was proving them to all be wrong. I had so many stories about what I couldn't do, and that it wasn't really worth trying too hard because I didn't want to fail and then beat myself up. So why try too hard? Why don't we just live for the moments and the day, which is great. However, you got to have some sort of plan. So during that first year, I would have nightmares. So first I promised her, I made promises to her that I kept. about being the best mom I could, which meant getting out of the bar scene, which I was a bartender for 10 years, a waitress and a bartender, and doing something else, because obviously that kind of nightlife wasn't going to be sustainable for a single mom with her baby. And so I would have dreams that first year that something was going to happen to Rtea, that she was abducted. And I would wake up and run in that room and be, oh my gosh, thankfully, there she is. She's safe. Her little belly is rising and falling. That sweet little face is sleeping peacefully. And then I could go back to sleep. But I still wouldn't put those wooden pieces of wood on the windows, because we're at ground level, and I was just afraid somebody was going to come and take her. I was just so afraid that something was going to happen to her, because I finally had my own baby to love. I finally felt, because I never felt safe to love. Even though I kept diving into love relationships, it never felt safe. Only in the initial stages. Only in the falling in love with love stages. Those stages were fun, but then I would get afraid. Didn't want to love too deeply, didn't want to get too invested, because I would always get disappointed or betrayed, and exactly that happened, because that's what I believed would happen. And it did. But finally, I had my own little baby. Nobody could take her away from me. And I could just be an open vessel of love and feel safe to love this child. Finally. So that might resonate with you if you're afraid of love, like I was. And so I knew she was never going to leave me, or so I thought. I thought, finally, I have a love that's never going to leave. But that wasn't true. That was a big lie too. I never imagined that my child would be the one to die at 17 years old. That happens to other families. And tragedy and trauma and all those things I felt were so distant from me. And I felt safe that isn't going to happen to me. So when it did, and when my worst nightmare came true, before she died, that she was raped, and a photo was out there of her, and it was being shared, and I watched my confident girl crumble and fall day in and day out, not able to protect her. Just talking about that now, it goes right back to that moment. And then 17 months later, she was gone. She died by suicide. How would I ever recover from that? How would anything matter to me again? And my mind told me nothing would matter again. This is my life. What did I do to deserve this? Why is this happening to me? I was a good mom. Why was she taken from me? All the questions. And that, oh my gosh, I'm going to feel miserable and in pain for the rest of my life. Physically, mentally, my soul, everything. Completely exhausted and in pain. But that's not where I am today. Almost 8 years later, that's not where I am. So there was a moment in time where the door was closing in on me, and I had to make a choice to heal or feel that every day, that pain. Or how could I heal? And not knowing how to heal, but making that decision. So this is where I'm going to wrap up with this little short story. Making that decision that I'm going to have to heal was something that was really hard to do, because then I had to take responsibility for my healing and turn towards myself and move through all those emotions. And now I'm not afraid anymore. So on that journey, step by step, I don't live in fear anymore. It's not that it doesn't get activated in my body and my system, but I trust. I trust myself. I trust love. And instead of shutting my heart down, I broke it wide open. And it took time. But you too can do that. You too can turn towards yourself. This is what I do with people. I mentor them in a membership program, and I also work one-on-one with people. But I just want you to know that no matter where you are, it doesn't mean you can't heal. It doesn't mean that you can't take steps towards healing, and your life can get much, much better. I'm grateful for every single day because I know how precious it is. And pain comes and pain goes, and joy comes and joy goes. And I just embrace them all now. So if this resonates with you, put something in the comments. Let me know. I'm trying to keep my videos short. I could go on and on. I have a million stories. I have a lot of stories and a lot of insight about healing. But I didn't heal from my mind. I healed by dropping into my body and my soul and my heart. And that's where healing starts. And that's where it all shifts. So thank you for spending some time with me today, and I hope to see you again soon.